Larissa was calm and disposed to explain the enigma of her residence, she began to speak. Her story contained corners, labyrinths, and ellipses, bordering on a visionary world that lent itself to the kind of esoteric speculation I always protect myself against with a blind instinct for avoiding chaos, one of the faces of death that for me is least tolerable and most lethal. Today's booktube is on the 33 best American novels. I'm going to start by giving the best 10, and then after that we're going to just say they're all pretty darn good, aren't we? Aren't they? Aren't we? You can skip this ad in 3 days. The book I was reading from was not Moby Dick. Moby Dick is first on my list. That's the best American novel. And I've done a list of United States novels, but this is the American novel. This was from number 3 on my list, which is Ilona Comes with the Rain by Alvaro Mutis from The Adventures and Misadventures of McCroll. Number 2 on my list is Roberto Arlt's combined novels that were separated at American birth, The Seven Madmen and The Flamethrowers. I've said enough about Moby Dick. I don't think we need to say more about Moby Dick. But Roberto Arlt's The Flamethrowers, written in 1929 and then continued and finished in 1931, is a visionary novel that does more than any other book I know to both represent and present the way the world changed during World War, or because of World War I, and the kinds of societies that were necessary to make that war happen, and a visionary, prophetic view of the future. It's an amazing book. The second best American book. Third best, Ilona Comes with the Rain. Fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth are The Snow of the Admiral, Un Bel Morir, in no particular order, The Tramp Steamer's Last Port of Call, one of my favorites, Amir Bar, Abdul Bashir, Dreamer of Ships, Triptych on Land and Sea. This is the third best American writer, and you could say that these are all one book, but they're actually 7 short novels. So there you have 3 through 9. Number 10 is The Obscene Bird of Night by Jose Donoso, a book with either 11 or 13 voices and the magnificent character of the Imbunche, which is a human being with all 9 holes plugged. It's a mysterious book. It's a book that has to be read several times to be misunderstood properly, and I think that more people should know about it. I'm assuming not enough people do. We could add after that, let's say, 100 Years of Solitude, because everybody knows about it, and its reputation is matched by the astonishing novel itself. But that could also be said of, for instance, Pedro Páramo by Juan Rulfo, a short Mexican novel that gets under your skin in ways that nothing else can. Now, if you want to get under the skull, you have to go to our man Jorge Luis Borges. And Ficciones is the next one I'm going to mention. We know a lot about Borges. We know what he's like. We know he was a genius and a madman fascinated by the arcane and the labyrinthine and the brain in life and so on. And basically, he was a brain in life, just moving around in life. But why this, though? Why this? What I wanted to say reminded me of, getting under the skin. This book takes up spaces between organs in your body. It moves around, and you can sometimes feel it moving across your back like a rat trapped in your couch. I've had that happen to me in India. That was really a weird moment. I felt a rat behind me, and I went into denial. I said, no, there can't be a rat behind me. And I was never that way about this, though. I thought, wow, because that feels good in there. It feels really good in there, and it's still in there. And out here as well. It's an amazing correspondence. We only have one woman on the list, and that is not my fault. That is the fault of the publishers who publish mostly men. We have Clarice Lispector on the list. And the reason she's on the list is because I haven't read her, and I know that I have to, and I almost put Luisa Valenzuela on the list, but then I would have 34 instead of 33, and probably she belongs on the list, but who would I kick off? I don't know who I would kick off. So it has to remain the way it is. Clarice Lispector is on the list. Another 3 books were written by Ernesto Sabato, and I'm including all 3, The Tunnel, On Heroes and Tombs, and The Angel of Darkness, because I consider them a trilogy. And if you don't, then you can decide which one is the best. You'll probably choose number 2, On Heroes and Tombs. That seems to be a popular choice. But I'd say read them all. We also have Juan Carlos Onetti's A Brief Life. A sort of, I would say, a sort of Latin American twist on the existential novel, which makes it more epic, actually. This is like five times as long as The Stranger, and well, maybe 3 times as long. It's not that long, but it's long enough, and I think that the more contours are scoured in this book than in The Stranger. We also have Angel. What was his middle name? Asturias is his name. Maria Asturias. The Eyes of the Interred. He Interred was the big book of his Banana trilogy, and the reason that he won the Nobel Prize. The Eyes of the Interred, about the rebellion in Guatemala. Next, I think we're going to go with The Death of Artemio Cruz by Carlos Fuentes. When he was young, he was more supple and had more depth and more philosophical ability. He wrote the haunting novel Aura, and then I think it was after that he wrote The Death of Artemio Cruz, about the crumbling of power. A theme, there you could make a list of the 10 best American novels, all about the leaders of countries. Io el Supremo. That's Roa Bastos is one of the great novels. I have that on my list. I don't have um, The Autumn of the Patriarch or El Señor Presidente. I think are the two like that are written by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. But almost everybody on this list has written one book about a tyrant. The Tyrant Banderas. I wanted to put it on the list, and then I realized it was Spanish. I think I can't remember. Anyway, earlier in the century. So let's call this the best books of the 20th century, sort of. I don't know. The best American books. Jose Lezama Lima Paradiso. I've just sent that book to a reviewer, and we'll see what he has to say about it. But it's many people choose it as their absolute favorite Latin American novel. I can't give it that because it's not even better than Conversation in the Cathedral, written by the politically at times repugnant Mario Vargas Llosa. That book, Conversation in the Cathedral, it begins with a sentence something like, "At what point did Peru fuck itself up?" And then it goes on to discuss this. Two people in a tavern called the Cathedral, but the whole novel is made of conversations, and some are longer than others, some are shorter than others. The short ones sometimes only have one line every 100 pages or so. And the amazing thing is that you, of course, forget about that in your reading. You forget about that conversation until it's answered, and then you're immediately back there. It is a work of tremendous confidence in the reader and a tremendous work of art, because you effortlessly recall what was said before. Now, this is just a list, so let's say Machado de Assis works, complete works. We're not going to name them all. We're not going to choose one, but he had to be on here. Among the very, very best, Julio Cortázar's Hopscotch. I don't know why I didn't put it a little higher. I guess that to me, Mutis has the poetic, the philosophical, the human spirit is captured in a way that is more in comportment with my own view. I can't really say that Cortázar was not the best writer ever, besides Herman Melville. But I am choosing Alvaro Mutis. Alejo Carpentier, The Lost Steps. I haven't read that for 40 years, and it stays with me. A man lost in the jungle, if I recall. And if I recall more than that, pat me on the back, because I don't have a great memory. I'm no genius. But did I mention? Yes, I did. Okay. So there were already. I'm not giving you. Three Trapped Tigers. Another Cuban, just like Lezama Lima. C. Cabrera Infante. Madcap Goings On. Speaking of Madcap Goings On, Zero by Ignacio de Loyola Brandao. Not a very well-known book, but back when Avon was publishing Latin American novels, I picked it up, and I was it was a prelude for me to some of the hijinks that would go on in the metafictional works of the northern part of the country, but better. And if you want a giant book, some of these are pretty big, but I have Roberto Bolaño's 2666 on here, and that should make you happy. If you want something that's just completely groundbreaking and wild, Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller. It's another great American book, and it belongs in the top 33. Now, I'm almost done because I decided I'm going to do a pretty short one here, but I wanted to, you know, I realized that when I made my list of 25 best United States American novels, some people might have thought American novels, so I'm, no, not at all, not even close. Um, there's an interesting, you could almost call it it's a trilogy of plays by three different writers. The national epic of Brazil is called Os Sertões, or the Backlands, and it's sold as Rebellion in the Backlands. And it's a true story by a reporter named Euclides da Cunha, who at the in the millennial years, just before the turn of the 19th century, covered a war the between the government of Brazil and these people up in the wild sort of northeast of the country called the Backlands, and I remember it starts out with this wonderful geographic passage, and then it goes on to talk about the wars. There were actually two assaults, and it took quite a bit to wipe out this millennial cult that was led by a mystic madman, and that became the subject. That's the epic. I don't know what it is about the Portuguese language, but Portugal's epic is by Camões, and it's also nonfiction. Can't remember what. The Os Luciades, I think it's called, the Luciads in English, but another epic work of nonfiction, I think. But we're talking about the American books now. So that Os Sertões led Mario Vargas Llosa. I can't believe I got that bastard on my list twice, but he deserves it. He wrote The War of the End of the World, which was about, it was a novel about the rebellion in the Backlands, and it is spectacular. The writing itself is not any kind of experimental, but it's an epic story that captures all of that event in a different way from Da Cunha, and it's a very, very much worth reading. But there's also another odd one with the worst title on this list. It's unfortunate they're in translation. I don't know what this one is in Brazil. No, I don't know if it's even Brazilian. João Guimarães Rosa. So that must be Brazilian. João. Yeah. And his book was translated as The Devil to Pay in the Backlands. What a terrible fucking title. But a marvelous, marvelous novel. And that, friends, is 33. The top 33 American books. Two of them from the United States, which is not bad for one country. Be proud of your kinfolk if you're looking from the United States.